D-Lo 404 Boxer. Try to make this real short and sweet, or short and simple, so to speak. Sitting out here on my porch, listening to this rain and listening to these birds chirp. But I was just thinking about something, and I wanted to speak on it. A lot of people keep going back to what Danny Garcia said when he turned down the Terrence Crawford fight. A lot of people are leaning on that as proof that Terrence Crawford doesn't want to fight any top contenders or any top level fighters at 147. And the phrase that I'm speaking of, or the statement that I'm speaking of, is when Terrence Crawford made, or his team made, Danny Garcia an offer of around $3 million for a fight, and Danny Garcia turned it down. He made the statement that he made that kind of money versus Rod Salka. I'm not going to dispute that. I know the reported purses weren't $3 million. I think the reported purses were like $750 and $125 for Salka, $750 for Danny. Now, Danny very well could have made $3 million, but put that in perspective. If Danny made $3 million, it was because he had an opponent opposite him who couldn't demand a bunch of money. He had an opponent opposite him who was a part-time trainer and who was coming up from another weight class, who wasn't very accomplished at that weight class either. And he basically was just brought in as cannon fodder. He was brought in as food. And it was an opportunity of a lifetime for him. Had he beat Danny Garcia, it would have opened the doors for him. But he didn't have a realistic shot at beating Danny Garcia. And he basically was treated that way at the negotiating table. Hey, this is what we're giving you. Come see me. So my point is that just because Danny made $3 million versus Rod Salka doesn't mean that Bud offered him $3 million isn't a fair offer. But even if you want to say, well, we paid Amir Khan X amount of dollars or whatever, let's look at this. Nobody stopped Danny Garcia from coming back to the table and saying, hey, I'm not going to take that 3, but this is what I'll take. And nobody stopped Terrence Crawford's side from saying, okay, our major just offered for 3. What would it take? Did I agree with them going in the direction of Amir Khan over Danny Garcia, a guy who had knocked Amir Khan out? Nah, I'd rather have seen the Danny Garcia fight. But it takes both sides to make a deal come together. And like I said, the fact that he got paid the money he got paid against Rod Salka is more directly associated with the fact that he was the marquee guy on the card. He was the main event fighter, and Rod Salka was just an opponent. So, with that being said, that's why a lot of times things break down, because people don't really negotiate. They just posture. And as long as we got more posturing going on than we got people actually making negotiations and really doing things behind the scene, and they keep putting all the terms and stipulations out on social media, fights are going to get harder and harder to make instead of getting easier to make, because you got too many other people involved in it when it should be all taken care of behind the scenes. That's why we had so many issues with Joshua and Wilder making a fight, although there were other things involved in that. But I feel like too much of that stuff got publicized, and it got to a point that there was no way they were going to make an agreement without everybody and their brother having a say on it. But that's all I got to say on the subject. D-Lo 404 Boxing.